Hey everyone, Reese here, and welcome to another episode of ctrl-alt-rees. And in this one, I have my trusty unboxing knife, and I also have a big pile of boxes, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for another projects and pickups video. This one is for February 2021, so let's take a look at some of the stuff that I've picked up over the past month. So before I get started with the unboxing, there's just something else that I very quickly want to cover, and that is my improvements to my actual studio and my filming setup here. So I will talk a little bit about a new piece of equipment that I've got as well, but the main thing that I just wanted to mention was this back wall here. Now I refitted this room, redecorated, towards the end of last year, and I've never really been happy with this back wall, and the reason being that there was a lot of reflective stuff on there that made it a real pain to position my LED panels and stuff, so I just didn't get reflections and stuff all over the place, and also I think it was a bit untidy, and I wasn't really sure about the best way to kind of finish it off. But in the past couple of weeks, I've put a new shelf up, and I've also put some hooks and hangers and things up to get some stuff on display. And I'm really happy with it now. I think it's great. I think it's finally at the point that I wanted to kind of get it to in my mind when I initially started on this refitting. And one of the big changes that I've made that I'm really happy with is to the lighting, and more specifically these LED strip lights along the edges of the shelves. Now these were actually inspired by a video by my good friend Keith, who has a channel called The Digital Orphanage. I'll link to that video up above. And what he has done is essentially put a tutorial together with RGBW LED strips, and he has quite a clever dimmer system, so he can actually mix and match the colours. And it's something that I want to perhaps do eventually, but I actually had enough warm white LED strip left over from doing my shelves here that I thought I'll put the aluminium channel and stuff up and just put those warm white LEDs in there for now, and just see how it looks and see how it all fits together. And I'm really pleased with that, so that will be covered in my new sort of studio tour video as well. But yeah, like I said, if you check out his video if you're interested in that, because I think it's a really good effect. They're also dimmable as well, because I actually preemptively went out and bought the dimmers for the RGB project, and thought I'd just at least wire one of those up and see how well it works. So yeah, really pleased with those. In last month's projects and pickups video, I mentioned a couple of projects that I was really wanting to get on with, and that I, at the time, claimed that I was going to be getting on with in the coming weeks, which were the finishing of the Atari Video Music restoration, and there was also a tablet that I wanted to have a look at and try to install Linux on, which I've done some work on in the background and made some progress with that, but at the same time not really come to any kind of setup that I'm happy with, that I really want to commit to video, so that's kind of on hold for now. But the reason I didn't cover those things that I was planning on covering is because yet again I had some stuff that landed in my lap at very short notice that I really wanted to put out very quickly because they were quite time sensitive. So the first of those things was the Atari 260ST, which is quite a rare and interesting model in its own right. You can see it up on the shelf behind me. It came with the SF314 double-sided floppy drive and a couple of other bits and bobs as well. So, and that was quite a reasonable price considering what a rare and unusual machine that is. And it's got quite an interesting story to tell as well. So I thought I'll at least get the camera out and film the unboxing because I want to play with it, and I don't really want to be sitting on it for weeks like a lot of this stuff that I have here. And so that came together quite quickly, and I was really pleased with it. And I just thought, yeah, that's some great content there. I may as well just release it on the channel straight away and see how it does. And to my surprise, it became one of the most popular videos on the channel within a matter of days. Loads of really great interaction in the comments section of that video. People from Germany and Eastern Europe and that part of the world who'd actually owned those machines, or at least remembered them being a thing. And a lot of people who'd never even heard of the 260ST and just kind of discussing it and asking questions about it. And that's really the kind of thing that I live for with this channel, and really the kind of motivation behind doing this channel, just that community and that interaction that I get from people. It always makes me really happy if it's positive, which it generally is. And one of the things that people were talking about in the comments, and of course which I also touched on in the video itself, was the boot process of that original Atari ST and those very early models. And basically there was a situation where the ROM chips weren't quite ready for those machines, and Atari, in their infinite wisdom and their rush to get to market, basically, rather than delaying the launch of the ST, decided that they would put some very basic bootstrap code on ROM chip and basically distribute the operating system itself on floppy disk with those machines. And those very early machines that had those floppy boot ROMs were later recalled and upgraded to the full version of TOS. And there are actually quite a few people with quite fond memories of that boot process, and it's quite unique and quite interesting to see. And it's not something that I'd actually seen before people pointed it out to me. Obviously, I knew the story. And I thought it was only fair to the 260ST to kind of finish telling its story and to actually put a follow-up video together covering that aspect of those machines. And that ties in quite nicely to my first pickup that I want to show you. So I actually managed to track down some original Atari ST floppy boot ROMs. And these were the chips that were removed from those early machines and replaced with the full version of TOS, the operating system. And I thought I'd get hold of some of these just so I could stick them in that machine, basically downgrade it to its original spec, and show everyone what that boot process was all about, because there's just not that much information about it out there. And obviously to tie in with that, I also bought this, or these, shall I say, which is basically just a box of double-sided, double-density 720K floppy disks. I do have plenty of floppy disks knocking around, of course, but these are formatted and tested and were described by the seller as 100% working and verified and whatnot. So stuff like that just makes life a bit easier when it comes to actually making these videos. And also, you know, it's always good to have them. They don't make them anymore, so I thought I'd grab a few of those while they were available. So yeah, hopefully that should make for quite an interesting follow-up video. And while we're on the subject of stuff that landed on my doorstep unexpectedly and unexpected videos from the past month, of course there was also the review of this, which is called a mouSTer, and it's a brand new piece of hardware for Atari and Amiga owners. And it's basically a USB mouse and game controller interface for your Atari, Amiga or 8-bit Commodore or Atari machine. Really happy with this. I think it's a really fantastic piece of hardware with some great potential. It's under very active development at the moment. A lot of great features being added to that. So be sure to check that video out. I'll put a link up above and down below in the description as always. The other thing that I mentioned in this review video that Retrohax sent to me, that they're actually involved with the writing and publication of, is this brand new magazine called Atari Fan. And I mentioned in the video that I hadn't had a chance to have a look at it yet. Obviously it's a couple of weeks later now, and I have indeed had a good read of it. And yeah, it's a really great magazine. I can recommend it. It's very similar to the kind of stuff that I used to read in the 90s. Good broad range of Atari related subjects in here. So you've got the ST, you've got the 8-bit, you've got the Lynx and the Jaguar and the Falcon. They've all got, you know, really good coverage, game reviews, hardware reviews, even some in-depth technical articles. There's one in here about the Pokey chip, which is the audio chip in the Atari 8-bit computers, just covering tracking down a bug with that and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really good range of stuff, really high quality as well, the actual printing and the binding of it, and just the you know, the layout and that kind of stuff. So I am intending on putting together a proper review video of this. Hopefully that won't be too much longer, but I just wanted to mention that just before it kind of got forgotten about, and you know, I don't want this to get overlooked because it does certainly seem very promising. And the third and final of those things that landed in my lap this month that I just had to make a video about was, of course, the Jaguar GameDrive. Not the GameDrive flash cart itself, obviously I've owned that for quite a while and already reviewed that last year, but the upcoming Jag CD support, which I was very kindly asked to get involved with the beta testing of, and of course which I also very kindly was given permission to make an update video about. And so I did, covered those Jaguar CD games running on the flash cart after quite a lot of trial and error and trying to get stuff working, and that's definitely heading in the right direction, and I think it's finally just around the corner. Just a few bugs to iron out with some specific SD cards and stuff like that, so hopefully that won't be too much longer. But if you want to see those Jag CD games running on that flash cart, like I said, I did put a video together about that a couple of weeks ago. I will link that in the usual places, and hopefully not too much longer for that public release. So one thing I mentioned last month in my previous projects and pickups video was that I'd just bought a Nokia 8.3, brand new mobile phone, and that I was planning on using it to record my videos on my channel because it had a very good 4K camera. And I'm very happy to report that that's gone extremely well. I'm really pleased with it. And one of the things that I have picked up this month to hopefully improve that even further, which you may have spotted from my wide-angle camera, which I have here, which is another thing that I'm experimenting with. That's just my GoPro that I use for my skiing videos and stuff. Obviously I haven't been able to go skiing this year, so I thought I'd put it to good use. But yeah, another piece of hardware that I bought to try and make that even better is this Rode Vlogger kit. And obviously I don't really have any intentions of doing any actual vlogging and wandering around and pointing the camera at my face, talking nonsense like people do. Of course, that's up to them. No disrespect to them if that's what they do, but that's not what my channel's really all about. But it was just a nice set that just came with some really cool things. The video microphone was something that I was interested in checking out anyway. It's got quite a nice little LED light thing as well, and a nice phone holder that fits onto my tripod. And so far I've been really, really happy with that. Oh, it also comes with a cool little tripod thing that's also a handle for vloggers, but it actually folds out into a really nice little mini tripod, which I'm using for my GoPro for my second camera as well. So lots of useful bits of kit in that box. And it's not something I'm really intending on reviewing. A few other channels have done it already. But one thing I did do on my second channel was just a quick microphone comparison. So I have my Rode NT USB here, which I've used for all of my videos so far. And I just did a quick comparison between the video micro and the NT USB, just in a controlled setting like this. Obviously the video micro is more intended for vlogging and outside type stuff, just to see how it compares. And it's a really great sounding little microphone. So maybe when things have changed and I can actually get out and about a bit more and film some stuff in other locations, I can just take all of this with me and not have to bother with the separate recording setup for the audio, and it should be a really nice little solution. So yeah, hopefully should work out very cool. Just onto a game pickup for this month, and one thing that I've kind of become a bit known for in my live streams is playing a game called Dark Forces, which is an old first-person shooter from the mid-90s, an old DOS game. It's a LucasArts game, obviously based on the Star Wars franchise. You're probably familiar with it. I'm not quite sure why I'm going into great detail explaining what it is, but that's what it is. And I haven't actually owned a boxed copy of it since back in the 90s. I've been playing a bit of a dodgy copy on my 486, but then I did pay for it at one point, so I guess that's okay. But anyway, I'm now very pleased to report that I own a boxed copy. And the funny thing about this is when I did my very first live stream, quite a few people on the RMC Discord server actually went out and bought these on eBay. And the prices actually went up as a direct result of me playing this game. So I've waited a few months to finally pick up my own copy. And the cool thing about this is that I actually had a message from the seller when I bought it saying, "Hey, are you the same ctrl-alt-rees from YouTube? I'm a subscriber to your channel. I really like your channel. You know, keep up the good work," kind of thing. And I was like, I've been recognised in public for being a YouTuber. All right, it was online, but yeah, very first time that's happened to me as well. So great experience. Obviously, the box is in really nice condition, so really pleased with that. Obviously, it's already installed on my PC and it uses MIDI for the audio and all that stuff, so there's no real benefit to owning the original CD. I just wanted to own it because it is one of my favourite games of all time, and it is one that I very much enjoyed back in the day. So good to have this box back in my life. Now, my next pickup is actually related to Dark Forces and to this PC and to those live streams. In fact, it kind of ties it all together. And the reason I did those live streams was because I had a popular video on my channel all about DOS MIDI and various MIDI devices for connecting to DOS PCs and kind of showing off a few different options with the Roland Sound Canvas and the MT32 Pi and that stuff. I will link to that up above and down below in the description as always. And I bought a PC MIDI card to put into that PC. I'm using the Sound Blaster 16 because I wanted the OPL3 chip for the FM synthesis. All incredibly nerdy stuff, which I'm sure my audience appreciate. But that's the reasoning behind that. And basically, within a month or so of me buying that PC MIDI card, the creators announced that they were making a new card called the Orpheus. And guess what? I now have an Orpheus. I know this has been covered on some of the bigger channels already. I'm pretty sure they were probably sent theirs for free for review purposes, but that's fine because they're a hell of a lot bigger than me, and I'm more than happy to pay for this because I think it's well worth the money. So we'll unbox this and take a look. And here we go. So this is a brand new ISA sound card released this year, which is quite an exciting thing. Or no, it was released towards the end of last year, but they're literally brand new. So let's just take a look. The Orpheus 1 sound card, and in fact, I will just show that to the camera. So that is the Orpheus Sound Card. It has a genuine OPL3 chip on it, just like my beloved Sound Blaster 16. It also has the crystal audio on there, so it can also emulate kind of later cards as well. It's got these very nice gold audiophile grade, whatever that means, capacitors on it, and it's all very high-end components and stuff. So engineered and designed and built to last for a very long time to come. So really great piece of hardware that, and I'm very much looking forward to putting that in my PC and perhaps doing some more live streams with it actually, just so we can see what it sounds like. And the other thing that I got with it was the DreamBlaster X2. I'm glad that's actually written on there because that just temporarily slipped my mind. But this is basically a wavetable daughter board which plugs into this sound card and does a lot of the same MIDI stuff that the Roland Sound Canvas does as well. So it will be very cool to connect these two up together and see what that setup sounds like. So yeah, looking forward to playing with that one. So now on to some Atari games, which should come as no surprise to anyone who's familiar with my channel. The first one here is one that I actually bought from a German seller on eBay, and this is one that I've been looking for a while. I actually owned this back in the early 2000s and foolishly sold it, and it's since become very valuable and very sought after. And one of the issues with this game is that there are often bits missing when you see it come up for sale. And if you haven't guessed what it is yet, and I don't blame you if you're surprised that I didn't already own this. But this is, of course, the classic Alien vs Predator on the Atari Jaguar. System that I'm very slowly collecting all of the games for. I think I have 27 at the moment, or 28 including this one. Has a sticker on the box which pretty much sums up my goals when it comes to collecting. I like stuff that's used and that's got some history to it. Obviously not completely trashed, but I don't look for things that are in mint condition. But the cool thing about this, and I won't bother, or will I? No, we'll take a look. Best thing about this is that it comes with all of the controller overlays as well. So not that I'll ever use them, but you've got the Alien, the Predator and the Marine overlays for the Jaguar controller. And some of the buttons on the front of the controller do specific things depending on which character you're playing as. And these always go missing, so it's good to have those. And yeah, nice little pickup which will look good on the shelves next to all of my other Jag games. And now some more Atari games, because you can never have too many Atari games. Now this is a console that's going to be getting some more attention on my channel in the near future, because I have some modifications and upgrades to do to mine. It's a console that I haven't actually owned before, and I kind of recently picked one up, and it's been on proud display on my shelves ever since. I've actually had this box for a few weeks now. I haven't got around to opening it because I've just been so busy with work and stuff. So let's take a look at what's in here. We've got some packing peanuts, which is always good. I'm sure LGR would be very pleased. So I'll just take these out one by one. I'm not sure if you can see this box. I don't know if that's in shot. But so, Atari Lynx Games. I have Gates of Zendikon, and that's sealed and shrink wrapped, which is, as I said before, it's not something I look for specifically, but I guess it's nice to have. Kung Food, but this one's actually in the original display hanger packaging, so that's really cool. I've never actually seen. Oh, it looks like it's got a Atari France sticker on the back, so it must have come from France. But yeah, that's not packaging that I've actually seen before, and it's nice to have that sealed. And perhaps I can hang it up on here somewhere with my Hot Wheels cars, and as you may have spotted, that one actually got knocked off the other day. That's something I need to fix, but yeah, maybe I can hang this up around here somewhere, or somewhere in the background, but just a nice thing to have, yet again. And in this box, 3 more sealed Lynx games. So we've got Turbo Sub, Hydra, and Shanghai, which looks like a Mahjong game. Is it Mahjong or Mahjong? Anyway. And to be honest, the only reason I really bought these games was because they were relatively inexpensive as far as collecting sealed games are concerned. Quite often people ask what is a good first system to collect for. And of course it depends on your goals, and I've always kind of been a fan of not buying stuff just for the sake of it. Just buy stuff that you have some kind of personal connection to. Obviously I was a big Atari kid, and the Lynx and the Jag are two consoles that I really wanted to own as a kid that I never had the chance to. The Jag I did own later on as a student, but yeah, so the Lynx is a really cheap system to collect for. Well, I've got in trouble for using the word cheap before, but relatively for boxed sealed games, considering it's such a unusual, not very uncommon is the word I'm looking for. Since it's not a very common system to begin with, the games are actually quite reasonably priced. I mean, if you're looking at something like sealed Nintendo NES games, I mean, they can go for an absolute fortune, whereas these are sort of like, 10, 15 quid each. So some more great games to put up on the shelf with my Lynx, and as I mentioned before, I do have some plans for the Lynx, getting that back up and running and refurbished, and there should be a video on that at some point in the future. Now, finally, I wanted to take a look at a box that has been sat under my desk for the past week, and I deliberately haven't opened this because I wanted to do it on video for a particular person who's watching, and that person goes by the name of Arthur, and Arthur is a patron of mine. And he contacted me quite a while back, actually, saying that he had a laptop that he wanted me to take a look at. He hasn't been able to get it working. And I don't like working on stuff for other people. I kind of have my own timescales and my own agenda and stuff, and if people send me stuff, I end up sitting on it for absolutely ages, and it makes me feel awful. But he's assured me that there's if he hadn't sent them to me, they'd just be sat on a shelf at home, and there's absolutely no rush at all. And if I could just take a look at some point and maybe get a decent video out of it, then it would be that would be interesting for everyone to see. And well, let's get the box open, and hopefully things will become clearer. So, packing peanuts. I think they're probably justified in this case, though. Of course, this is my first time looking in this box, so I'm not sure what a lot of this. Not sure what that is. That's okay. That's a 62 gig solid state drive on a IDE, 2.5 inch IDE adapter. So let's just take a rummage through here. Oh, now that should be a big clue. A ThinkPad. And there you go. As you can see, it's a ThinkPad keyboard, but it's not just any normal ThinkPad keyboard, as you can probably see by these tracks on the back of it. This is a keyboard from a model called the 701CS, also known as the butterfly keyboard. So the idea behind this is that the lid, obviously when the lid is closed, the keyboard's fully folded up like so, and you open the lid, and there's a mechanism that basically unfolds it, and it folds and unfolds as you open and close the lid. And one of the reasons I accepted this is because I have a personal connection to this particular model. Basically, my dad had one of these when I was a kid, and his unfortunately suffered from motherboard failure, and it was given to me, and I ended up taking it to bits and never putting it back together again. Story of my life. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I accepted it for repair. Obviously, I'm not quite sure how long it's going to take to get around to actually fixing this, but hopefully it won't be too long. Now, I'm told that there are actually two in this box. Supposedly there's one that's in quite nice cosmetic condition, and then there's also, I think this is the other one, which is basically just a pile of parts just in case I need any. And hopefully I can build a working laptop out of the two. So yeah, it shouldn't be too much longer until I can get around to that, but obviously it's going to be quite a big job, so I need to make sure that I have the time to be able to do it justice. And once it is repaired, I'll be sending it back to Arthur. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to work on one of these again. without having to spend a fortune buying one for myself, and hopefully should make for a good video. And so that brings us to the end of this projects and pickups video for February 2021. And all that's left to say is to thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up, as it helps me to increase the visibility of my videos and helps me to grow the channel. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or any feedback at all whatsoever, please do let me know down in the comments section. It's always great to have a chat, and I do genuinely mean that. And finally, if you have watched all the way through to the end of this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, I really would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button as well. I've got a load more retro computing and gaming content that hopefully you will enjoy. So once again, thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.